Hi there, this is Brianna Howard and Anna Dowd, and we are students at Cincinnati Christian University. We're majoring in early childhood education, and for our instructional technology class, we're going to be discussing a controversial topic for the classroom. With so many fatal shootings happening around the news these days, we decided the idea of teachers having guns in the classroom is an important topic that needs to be discussed. I'm Brianna. Like Anna said, we're going to be talking about guns in the classroom, and my argument is that I do not believe guns should be in the classroom. My first point is that teachers already have enough responsibility to teach and to keep the students safe. I don't believe that they should also be responsible for a possible shooter to come in the classroom. I definitely get that, and I think I agree to a certain extent. But I think more that it's not necessarily should be their responsibility to take on a shooter, but maybe more their responsibility or their opportunity if they choose to. Like they should have the right to protect themselves if somebody comes in, and not be allowed to protect themselves just because they're in like a classroom setting. It's like if they had a job at a different place that they would have had that opportunity and been able to have a gun there. Um, like I don't think they shouldn't be allowed just because they are in a classroom setting. I understand where you're coming from, but students can easily be harmed, especially if there's a misfire. There's so many accidents that happen, and if the teacher thought that the gun was on safety and it wasn't, and she dropped it and it fired, that would be a lot of trouble on you and the school. That would be a lot of liability. So what's the point of having a gun if it's hidden? It's not safe to carry it on you, but I don't think that it's possible if a shooter invades the school to get to the gun fast enough. Yeah. Even if it is I get locked. That because it's hard to have it on them all the time because then accidents can happen. But then if it's hidden and they have to be able to get to it, I think it's hard once the situation does come. But like I think I can just remember like lockdown drills and stuff when I was in high school, and I remember like the whole school kind of like there being an alarm that went off, and then the teachers had time to go lock their doors, and then what they did once their doors were locked was kind of up to them. So I think a lot of times they were like getting us to hide in the back of the classroom, whatever. So if they thought that maybe they had enough time to go try and retrieve that gun, that it was just an opportunity that they had. Like I said, a lot of the teachers at my high school did have guns in their classrooms, but they were just like in their desk, locked away with keys, only to be gotten to and only like messed with if a situation was brought about. And the students knew about it. I think we were old enough to know about it, but I also get the problem with that they could come up with if there is like a distressed student and they do know about the gun and then being able to retrieve it, then accidents can happen that way. So I get that, but I think that a way around that would be a really good situation just in order to provide an extra level of protection for the teachers and students if they did feel that they had the opportunity to do something. Yeah, I definitely don't think that students should know about the gun because that could be a lot of trouble. But not having, how are you supposed to get to the gun? What if the alarm doesn't go off? Like, what if there's not enough time to pull the alarm? Or what if they get into the office and they shoot them and you don't have enough time? Like, if it's locked in the safe, how are you supposed to go find your keys and get it unlocked fast enough and be ready? Also, how you can't carry your keys around all day. What if if it were a kid in your classroom, what if they grabbed your keys, especially if they knew where it was? And because, I mean, you said you knew where, like, your teachers hid the guns and stuff. First of all, it shouldn't be a loaded gun, but how are you supposed to load it fast enough, get the keys, unlock it? Like, I just feel like there's a lot of I bad things that can happen from that. It probably isn't something that's going to stop a shooter every time. It's not gonna like be a foolproof method. But I think that if done right, that it can be like an extra level of defense if it comes to that point and if it is an option. Like, I just know that if I was in a classroom and there's a shooter in the building and we did know about it, I would feel so much safer sitting in my classroom with a teacher at the front of the classroom that had a gun just in case they came in, than us all just unarmed sitting there, kind of like waiting like ducks for them to maybe come into our classroom. Just knowing that maybe there's an opportunity to be safer or to have some protection if it did come to that. But I definitely agree that there's a lot of problems around it that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree. Um, but if the shooter is already in there, they're not going to allow you to get the gun. Like, how would you get to the gun? Like, how
Yeah,
would
I think
this
under a lot of
be?
situations, you're right. It would be really hard to get to it in time and be able to prepare yourself. But some schools, some situations that maybe if they did have the time to be able to get to it, maybe a 3 minutes that it would take to be able to get to the gun, unlock it, load it. That's 3 minutes that they were on their way to the classroom, and it on average takes police 11 minutes to show up. So that gives the shooter an opportunity to be in a school for at least 11 minutes with no one capable of defending themselves if guns are completely banned in schools. And just one teacher with the possibility of having a gun can limit that time immensely, if it came to that. And even just the idea of individuals knowing that guns aren't allowed in schools, I think can really kind of make schools an easier target if they know that there's less of a chance of them being defended against because they can go in there somewhere that no one's allowed to defend themselves. Just knowing that guns are allowed in schools, I think, could maybe decrease the limit or the amount of school shootings, just a little bit too, which would really help.
Yeah. I also read this article about how it said that even you forget when you're in tough situations, you forget like proper mechanics and like your brain just forgets. So if there were like you forget all everything that they taught you, like if they do go through gun training, like in that situation,
Under crisis.
yeah, how are you going to be able to stay calm and make sure a kid is actually staying back and not trying to run out and you like firing at the right person or not misfiring or just like freezing like
Yeah.
and the shooter is probably way more prepared than a teacher would be. They probably practice shooting. They would be
They're not
very
caught off guard.
prepared and maybe even not kill you, but like shoot you in the leg at first, grab your gun, and then they would have two guns. Like there
Yeah.
would be a lot of problems
Yeah.
that could come from that.
I definitely agree with you that that could be a serious issue, because guns just aren't something that, especially people in the teaching profession, typically are using every day. But I think that we already trust our teachers with our students to a certain extent, to kind of protect them and have that natural instinct. Like, what's stopping them now from hiding a gun and coming into the school and going after our students? So I think that them having the gun, is just going to be more of a protection thing. I remember during the Sandy Hook shootings, like I remember reading about that. I remember all the teachers that put their lives on the line without having guns just to protect their students, laying in front of their students, jumping in front of bullets for students, and attacking the shooter. So I think that in most cases, we can trust our teachers to want to protect our students and do what's best for them, even in those really critical situations where adrenaline's going to be running and accidents could happen and people could forget how to use guns. But I think because they're going to have such good intentions and truly just want to save themselves and the students, that I think that um, accidents can definitely be limited.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I would do anything to risk my life for any student or anything. And I think that that's a really tough situation just because there could be a lot of accidents. And personally, I would never have a gun just because I'm not comfortable and they scare me. They scare a lot of people, like they could scare the kids. But
Yeah.
I would definitely try to get in the shooter's head or like talk them out of it or definitely protect my students as much as I could and I just think that that's
absolutely.
really
That's why
hard.
I think maybe it should come down more to a teacher's choice. A teacher's able to choose whether they want to have a gun. So like whether you like can admit that like I don't feel comfortable with it, but I think that maybe a teacher down the hall that does feel more comfortable, maybe they even use guns in like their personal life or have a concealed carry and are more comfortable with the weapon. I feel like maybe them having one isn't necessarily a bad situation. So I don't think it should be a teacher's responsibility, but more a teacher's opportunity.
So we decided that we don't necessarily agree on this at all.
I think
but
we can say that.
And there's two completely different sides, and we both make good points. But we can both agree that neither side is completely wrong or completely right. There's no like perfect answer, but it's disappointing that teachers and schools should even have to consider having guns in the classroom in the first place.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast.
Hope you enjoyed it.